Let's learn about the second conditional. And remember, if you need more help at the end of this video, I do have some lessons and activities linked in the video description below. So check that out. And let's review. What is a conditional sentence? So conditional sentences are hypothetical or imaginary situations. And if you don't know what the word hypothetical or imaginary means in English, please translate it in your native language so you can understand second conditional sentences better. In English, we use the word if to show that a situation is hypothetical or imaginary. So, for example, if I won the lottery, if I saw an alien, if I were the president, if I had a pet dinosaur. None of these situations are real. They are hypothetical or, again, imaginary. So, what is the second conditional? The second conditional is for present or future unrealistic situations. And I emphasize unrealistic because if you remember the first conditional, that is used for realistic situations, like if it rains, if I forget my wallet. But second conditional is a little bit more fun because we're talking about unrealistic situations or situations that are less likely to happen. So, for example, we imagine what we would do in these unrealistic situations. We look at what we could do, what we would be able to do in these unrealistic situations, or what might be possible in these unrealistic situations. For example, if I won the lottery, I would buy a seaside home. So winning the lottery is not a very realistic situation, but I imagine I would buy a home by the sea. Now, if I bought a seaside home, I could swim every day. Could is used to show that ability. And finally, if I swam every day, I might be healthier. Might is showing us that it would be possible to be healthier in this unrealistic situation of winning the lottery, buying a home by the sea, and swimming every day. Now, let's notice the pattern. We're going to use if plus the verb to. And again, this is second conditional. So that's our clue. Second conditional means we use verb to or the simple past tense. So if plus verb to, and our modal would for imaginary, could for ability, and might for possibility, plus the verb one, which we should know we always follow modals with a verb one or base verb. So if I saw an alien, I would run away. If I were the president, I could lower taxes. And one thing to note, when we do have the if clause at the beginning of the sentence, we need a comma to separate it from the independent clause that follows. Or you could always put your modals first and then your if clause second. So again, you could do your would, could, or might, verb one, and then your if, verb two. Now, if and verb two are always going to be together. Think of it like boyfriend and girlfriend. All right, they're always going to be together. So if you move them, you move both of them. And the sentences would now sound like, I would run away if I saw an alien. I could lower taxes if I were the president. And you might be saying, wait a second, if I were? And yeah, that's actually one of those weird exceptions that we have in English. In the second conditional, we don't say if I was or if he was, we actually use were. So if I were, if he were, if she were, if it were. We do not use was in the second conditional. Okay, so let's do a quick practice. We're going to read the short scenarios and then match those scenarios to the picture that describes them. And try to find the second conditional in these paragraphs. Go ahead and pause the video, and when you're ready for the answers, hit play. All right, let's take a look at number 1, and we'll read it out loud together. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world and explore different cultures. I would try to visit a new country every month if I didn't have to work at my job anymore. It would be absolutely amazing. All right, what picture is that? Picture B. Let's take a look at number 2. If I won the lottery, I would also invest in sustainable energy projects to help combat climate change. If these green companies did well, I could make even more money. All right, and that's going to show us picture A. Let's take a look also at our second conditional sentences. We have, of course, if plus verb to or one, and then our modal phrase is would travel. Down here, we also have would try with our if clause second and our verb to didn't. Same thing down here. I have my if clause plus verb to one with my would invest. And again, I have the second conditional down here with if, and we got to jump all the way over here to the did for my verb to and my modal phrase could make. Okay, so now let's practice a little bit with writing. And I tried to keep this pretty simple. I'm starting all of these sentences with the if clause. So remember, in the second conditional, it needs to be if plus verb to. So go ahead and take all of these verbs in parentheses and change them to the verb to form or the simple past tense form. Again, pause the video, and when you're ready to see the answers, hit play. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at number 1, and the answer is had. Let's read these sentences together to practice our English fluency. Number 1, if I had a magic wand, I would make all food chocolate. Number 2, were. Let's read it. If I were a superhero, I could fly. Number 3, the answer is married. Let's read it. If I married a millionaire, I wouldn't work anymore. Number 4, saw. Let's read. If I saw my favorite actor, I would take a selfie. Number 5, went. If I went viral on social media, I might become famous. And the last one, number 6, is invented. Let's read it. If I invented a time machine, I could visit the dinosaurs. Now let's take a look at finding the appropriate modal to use. So remember, we can use would, could, and might, but for these 6 sentences, I'm actually just looking at would and could. Remember, would is used for what we imagine we would do in that situation, and could is used for what we would be able to do in that situation. Again, pause the video, and when you're ready to see the answers and discuss, hit play. All right, let's take a look at number 1. I put would. I imagine I would live on a farm if I had 50 dogs. Why? Because that's a lot of dogs, and I would need a lot of room. Number 2, I put could. Right. If I were a genius, I could solve some of the world's problems. So again, if I were very smart, I would have the ability to solve problems. Number 3, would. Again, I imagine I would call the police if I saw somebody getting robbed. Number 4, I put could. If I spoke 10 languages, I could work for the government. Again, speaking 10 languages is a pretty great skill. So I imagine with that skill, I would have the ability to get a government job. Number 5, I also wrote could because, again, I have right here, if I were able to. So if I had the ability to cut hair, I would also have the ability to do it for free. Now, if you put would there because you imagine you would do that to help out your friends, I think that's also okay. Number 6, the last one, I put could. So again, if I were stronger or if I were smarter in physics, I could be an engineer. Again, I would have the ability to be an engineer if I had that skill. So hopefully you feel a little bit more confident about the second conditional, why we use it, and how we structure it. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Also, I really encourage you to write some practice second conditional sentences for yourself in the comments as well. So think about yourself. What would you do if you had 50 dogs? What could you do if you were a genius? What would you do if you saw someone get robbed? And again, what could you do if you spoke 10 languages? Practice by writing some sentences in the comments below. And of course, thanks for watching.